One of the first things I wanted to mention was troubleshooting with CodeMeter. Basically, just make sure that you're using Firefox or Chrome and not Safari. If you need to rehost your license or you're doing anything with that, make sure that you're using Chrome or Firefox, not Safari, because I did that and it was not working and I couldn't figure out why. So this is the TVPAINT website. You can purchase and download TVPAINT through here. There's like a few different versions. One is standard and one is professional. The biggest selling point for the professional for me was the camera. I was really bummed out when I found out in the standard there was no camera that you could animate with. I don't think that's changed since I last had the standard. I'm looking at the breakdown and I think you can see it too. Yeah. Sorry, I don't usually do this like two camera thing. It's weird. Yeah, as you can see, start a new file. So I'm gonna go to File at the top. I'm gonna go Open Project. And this is what's going to come up. So this is what I had, the last project I had. This is like the height and width and resolution and everything that I had in my previous project. It's going to look different for you. It probably is going to open up and it's going to say 1080 by 1920. And there's also custom drop downs, so like these different resolutions that you can use. There's 4K flat, 4K native. In school, we were taught to use, oh, nope, not that. 2K native. Where is that? Yeah, 2K native here. So that's 2048 by 1080. So to start, we're going to start with that. The DPI resolution can stay at 72. And then here you'll see there's like the 120. That just means that the canvas is being multiplied a little bit, or it's going to be 20%. What is it? Yeah, 20% over what 2048 by 1080 is. So you want that wiggle room. The only thing is the bigger the canvas, the higher the resolution is, the more like if your computer isn't great, it might be a little laggy, it might crash a little bit more. So just be aware of that. So like don't bump it up unnecessarily. But for now, this is like great. I'm gonna select project with camera. If you have the standard version, I don't believe that will be an option. So just stick with project. It's a new project. I'm just gonna open this up and I'm gonna select the timeline and I'm just gonna press 0 to close it. 0 on my keyboard. And I'm using a Mac, like I said, just FYI. There are a lot of hotkeys involved in TVPaint that are really helpful to know. So that being said, it is a little different if you're using a Windows, which is the hotkey for like a quick save. It's the same thing as save project here, Command S. It doesn't always work. So if you're doing something really, really important, make sure you're saving properly and go to File, Save as Project. Save project as, rather, and then resave it onto wherever you're putting it. I've had a lot of issues with save as and it just not saving, or not like the previous thing just didn't register, and it's like a quick save, and if you're actually working on something you really care about and you know would be sad if it got lost, then make sure you're doing the extra thing. The next thing you can do is, I'm just gonna explore preferences really fast at the bottom here. So edit preferences. This might be a lot if you're like just getting started with like new softwares and stuff. So I don't want to like scare anyone. Like you don't need to open this, but it is nice to know that you can go to save, and there's actually an alarm you can set to make sure that it like saves, like you remember to save it, which is kind of nice. It's deactivated by default, I believe. You can also, if you're doing this on a personal computer, the parameters that you select in preferences and in your file when you're starting it up will stay the same. If you're working from school or from another computer, it's possible that they like wipe it like whenever you log out. Like the school I'm at, like if I open a project file with the computers there, I have to like reset everything to the way I like it. So just be aware of that. Again, this is going to be super basic, to be honest, because I don't even know, like there are a lot of features. I'm not sure about every single one, but hopefully it'll give you enough information to get started. So the hotkeys are really good to know with TVPaint. They can really help with like switching to different things super fast. So for example, like if you hold down your left click on the main panel, like on anything, you'll usually have a drop down of like different options. And one thing I really like about TVPaint is it gives you the shortcuts. So it's kind of intuitive. Like for example, like if I'm on a dot stroke and I want to go back to a regular stroke, I just press D. Oh, there we go, D, and it'll work. S is dot, and look at that. This is for doing like shapes and filling them. So I'm just left clicking to confirm the strokes, and then it'll fill that. Right here is my color kind of pickers. This one is the A pen color, this one's the B pen color. If you're using a Wacom pen, you can like program your pens to basically like switch colors, like your A pen or your B pen, based on like buttons you press, which is really helpful. So, and here's a way to pick your color, different ways to pick your colors. There's a lot of them. So you got A and B colors, which is what we have going on right now. The sliders, you got your traditional color picker situation, color variation. So that's taking from the colors that we have going on in our A and B pen. The chromatic wheel, and then we have just plain out palettes, like just the full palette. It's really easy to make color palettes. You just right click over this area, and you can go new mixer from empty. I'm going to call it purples, just for example. I'm going to go back to the chromatic wheel. I'm just going to grab a purple, and then I'm going to press this little button here, swap A and B color, and I'm going to grab a lighter purple, and then I'm going to go back to the mixer, and from there I can now start drawing. I'm going to switch this to the B pen, drop paint, and as you can see, it starts to mix really nicely, so you can get like a bunch of different like values and stuff with the colors that you're putting on your mixer. So like really traditional painting, like it's nice. I find TVPAINT is really good at that. They try really hard to like keep that sort of traditional painting and like drawing and illustrating like spirit alive, you know? So yeah, that's one way to do it, and I'm gonna right click. So yeah, you can do a new mixer from empty, from current image, and from an image that you've like exported. Like you can bring in an image, and you can do that for the palettes as well. This is like one of my favorite features. So if I were to go to palette right now, I'm gonna right click, and I'm gonna go to new palette from image, and now I can go browse on my desktop. I have this like random ice cream picture. I'm just gonna do that, okay? And it's asking me the color count. So 256 is like a lot of colors. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna leave it there. And as you can see, it's made me a nice little gradient palette. And I'll show you the original picture. Actually, I'll use this as an opportunity to show you how to import images. So first I'm just gonna, this is my timeline. I just double clicked the top part and it made it large. I'm just gonna bring it down a little bit. To import an image, you go to new. You can go to import footage. I'm gonna go to that same picture that I just used for the palette. And I'm gonna say load. And then it's gonna come up with this like import footage thing. And it'll just tell you like what the resolution, the width is, the name. You can convert footage to. I usually leave it as is. If you are worried about stretching, like say you've done like a drawing and you want to bring it in, just make sure you don't have stretch to project size enabled. And I like to keep lock aspect ratio so you don't get any weird stretching. And it's a single frame, so I'm just going to select single frame so it doesn't come like, sometimes it'll import like a bunch of the same picture if you don't press single frame. So just beware of that. Yeah, and then I'm going to press import here. And then voila, it just imported the palette used to grab from. And it's pretty nice. It's like, look how accurate it is on the side here. Oh wait, I didn't realize it's like far, but yeah, that's the picture. In the paint bucket drop down, like I've selected paint bucket, so this is like the tool that I've selected. It's like all the advanced parameters and stuff. You can pick source, and you can say layer, color density. I'm gonna leave. I think now, see, it fills the spaces that you've selected. Okay, so above and under, what it does basically, it like allows you to separate your layers to be different from what your paint bucket is like affecting. So like say I've done the circle and it's on ice cream layer. I can add a new layer and it's above this layer, obviously, right? So now the source is under, so if I press, it'll fill the layers from the line from under. So paint bucket is good. Camera, if I select the canvas right now, you'll see a camera will come up. If you only have the standard, I don't believe that this is a thing that will be available. You can hover over the side here and change the resolution and all that. So this is a good example of why you want your resolution to be a bit larger. If you have a camera in your scene, the resolution is going to, like, this is obviously, if this was my camera, it's going to export that big. So if you know that you're going to be putting it on a screen that's 4K or whatever, that's not going to look very good. It's going to look very pixelated. So just be aware of that. Or it'll export, and then it'll export as like 2048 by 1080, for example. But that pixel resolution is not 2048 by 1080. So it's gonna look like bad quality. And you can always add stuff in post for bad quality stuff. Like, you can always make the quality look worse, like in like post, with like pixelation and stuff. You can't like make something look better if it's like bad quality. So it's just always better to like work with the best quality you can. Yeah. So this is the camera though. For now, I'll just leave it there. There is more about cameras, obviously. So when I selected the camera and then I selected the canvas, it actually created a camera layer. So right now, if I were to try to do anything, I can only do something that the camera layer would allow. So if I want to like go back to my strokes and stuff, I would have to select the layer originally that's not a camera layer. So yeah, so if I'm on stroke tools, you'll have some tool parameters and stuff. There's the pen tool, there's the pencil brush, there's the eraser, and if you scroll down, you'll have like a drop down of like the more advanced parameters for like each object or tool. There's also text, which looks like this. Apparently the last thing I had written out was credits, so that's what's come up. But you can change whatever you've written by just saying like, by this little area here. And then it's like a stamp. So if I just like left click, it'll confirm on the page. Once you've stamped it, it doesn't look like you can actually change the scale or the size. So you want to do that before you've like actually confirmed the text onto the page. Say it's here and I actually want to change it, like I put it too far off to the side. You can use something called the transform tool. So it says perspective here, but I'm gonna put it down to transform. Actually no, panning. And now I'm on panning, I can grab it and I can go over here. So everything that I've done so far is on the same layer, so it's all gonna move together, which is why it's like really helpful to have multiple layers. But yeah, so the panning tool is just like literally left clicking and dragging. What if I want it to change like perspective, or I want it to be like wider at the bottom for some reason? I'm gonna hold down left click on the panning tool and I'm gonna go down to transform. So now I can warp things, or not warp things, I can scale things rather. To warp things, whoop, that's not what I meant to do. To warp things, you want to go to perspective or warp, and you can take, whoa, what did I do here? Okay, you can take the sides and stuff and like mess around with them. If you select shift with the warp key or with the perspective tool on, you'll kind of like snap to the axes that you're like trying to go with. So like shift, and then as you can see, it's like staying on the Z axis. And then if I wanted to stay on the Y axis, I'm selecting shift and it's staying like that. And then the only thing something I forgot a lot when I was first getting started with TVPAINT is you have to apply any sort of perspective, I believe, or pan as well. Do you have to apply it? No, you don't have to apply for panning, but for perspective and for transform, you have to apply whatever you've done, because if you don't, if you go back to stroke, it'll just snap back to what you had before, and you'll see that it hasn't been applied because there'll be like a red line, like it'll be encased in like a red line instead of like a green line. That just means that you haven't confirmed it. Yeah, so if I go over to transform, it's going to snap back to what I had previously had, so I'll just make it a little smaller just to show. And then if I go back to stroke, it'll just blow back up, and that's because I haven't applied it. So I have to press here, apply. And see, now the red has gone away, so I've applied it. So now it's like that though. You just have to make sure that, like, you're happy with it, especially with resizing and stuff. And I think that's why they do it, because if you resize it and you accidentally apply it and it's blowing it up or something, you'll lose you'll lose quality, which is like, that's not good. Also can do show last use tool here, which is fun. And this is clear everything. Okay, getting started with the timeline. Over here you can see these are your layers. So right now we just have one layer. You can rename it by double tapping on the layer name. It automatically goes to like anim 1 or 01, 02, 03. I'm just going to call this layer 1 just to switch it up a bit, I guess. I'm crazy like that. Okay, and then to add a new layer, you go to new. You can add anim layer. It's going to automatically go to the top. These are your instances here. So right now we're at frame 0. To delete instances, you can select them. They'll go a little blue. Right click, and you can say delete selection from project. And then to add a background layer, it's right here, background layer. It's automatically colored, and you can change the colors to like organize your stuff. So you just select this little tag here, and you can make it whatever color you'd like. So as you can see on the side here, there's like a pause button in the background layer, like automatic thing. You can make any layer a background layer. You just have to change the left click. You'll see there's like a drop down. So right now it's on none. So that just means it's gonna stop. Like nothing's gonna happen. It's not gonna hold or anything. It's not gonna loop. You can select hold, and now you have a background layer. I'll do it on the other side too. So what if you're working at 12 frames a second, like I just said, and you want to export at 24 frames a second, which is the recommended. There's a few ways to do it. So I just dragged this little bar 1 frame over, and now it says 2. So that means that this frame is going to play for 2 frames. Right now this all is blank, right? So if I were to like hover over this frame and draw a line, it'll, oh, I was on the wrong layer. It will populate with something. And then I could take this frame and go like that. So just draw this. Da-da. So now this little sequence, this mini little sequence, is playing at 12 frames a second, but it can be exported at 24 frames. Say I just want to draw and I don't want to think about the exposure, what's going on with the holds and stuff. I'll do it for this one. I'm just going to draw a line. I'm going to go, oh. So you can go up and down on your keyboard to go through the layers, by the way. So I'm going to do the line here, and then I'm going to do a line here. I've highlighted everything. I'm going to go over here to set exposure, and I can select 2, and now it'll make all of that 2. Make sure you've toggled auto create frame, which just makes it so that like if you're drawing on a blank frame, it'll populate itself. This little light button here you can select, and it says light table parameters. I'm going to select that, and these are all of your frames before and after. So say I just want the last frame to be like 50% visible, then I'd take this 1 and I'd put it to around 50%. If I wanted to export this really beautiful sequence, what I would do is I would go over to File, Export to. This will come up, and I can make sure that my parameters are correct. I'm exporting at 2458. So this is the resolution, like using the multiplication that we saw at the beginning. So that's why it's like bigger. I can change this. I can bring this down if I want. I would recommend not bringing it up or scaling it up, because that can make you lose quality in your images. The pixel aspect ratio set to 1, that's great. You want it to be at 1. The DPI resolution, again, probably should keep it at what you used originally. The mode, that RGB, the file format is at movie, it's a movie file. It's really recommended, especially in your first export, if it's something that's really important, you should export it as a sequence. So what I would do is I would go over to movie format, and I'd use either a TIFF or a PNG. So I'll use a PNG for today, but TIFF is, apparently it's a little bit better. A lot of people have debated about it. Like, it is technically, I think, a little bit better resolution, but it's so similar that it doesn't, in my opinion, PNG is just as fine. And I think it's like less stored, like taking up less storage. If there is alpha, which just means like if you're trying to export it, say, into like After Effects or something, and you need your drawing to have like a transparent background, then you make sure you've selected alpha. In the mode area here. RGB, that's fine. And then I'm gonna just pick where I want it to export. And then yeah, you can actually write notes in TVPAINT. So if you're exporting it for that reason, You can select notes. Another thing that we can go into at a later date. And right now it's exporting 15 frames, so just make sure that you have the correct in and out situation. I want the background to be selected. So yeah, actually you can turn off the background, and if I were to just do that here and go back to RGBA, it'll be transparent when I export it. So I'll do that just for fun. And then we're good to go. So now I'm going to select export, and it'll do that for me.